distinguished citizens, distinguished representatives of the media, distinguished guests, good afternoon and welcome to today's event for the signing of agreements of between the Republic of North Macedonia and the Development Bank of the Republic of North Macedonia with the European Investment Bank for new 100 million euros for support of small and middle enterprises.
Да мирсердот на Северна Република Македонија со вериот, на ѓарена сотне мерастине на шкримите марвешес на мес Република Македонија со вериот, банка с пржвилимта Република Македонија со вериот, ме банкан per Европјане per инвестим per 100 милион евро, баштетје per компанијт е вогледе томесме. Во продолжение ги покану.
Now I would like to invite the Minister of Finance, Mr. Fatmir Besimi, the Vice President of the European Investment Bank, Liliana Pavlova, and the Director of the Development Bank of North Macedonia, Kira Naumov, in the presence of the Euro Ambassador, Mr. David Geer, to sign the agreement. Please. Thank you. Now I would like to invite the Minister of Finance, Mr. Fatmir Besimi, to address you. Thank you, Meti. Distinguished Vice President of the European Investment Bank, Mrs. Liliana Pavlova, Your Excellency, Ambassador of the European Union to our country, Mr. David Geer, Distinguished Director of the Development Bank, Mr. Kira Naumov, distinguished representatives of the media, distinguished citizens. It is my exceptional pleasure to be part of this event. This is a great occasion. Namely, today we are signing very important agreements with the European Investment Bank that provide 100 million euros in favorable funds for the small and medium enterprises in the Republic of North Macedonia. This is a significant liquidity support for the economy recovery post-COVID-19. In our economy, these funds mean new employments, new investments, and thus they increase the economic activity and accelerate the economic growth. The signing of these agreements is a proof for two very important partnerships of the government of the Republic of North Macedonia. First, with the European Union, which is our partner and supporter in the development in good times and in challenging times, such as COVID-19 crisis. This is also partnership with the European Investment Bank. The funds for which today we're signing an agreement are part of the financial support allocated by the European Union and the European Investment Bank for the Western Balkan countries as a response to the COVID-19 pandemics. I would like to avail myself of this opportunity to express my gratitude to the European Commission and the European Investment Bank, which so far has invested about €1 billion in our country. Second, the second partnership of the government and the entrepreneurs. This is very important. These agreements confirm the partnership of the government and the entrepreneurs, especially the sector that should invest, that should open new jobs to increase the competitiveness and to improve our economy. In times of economic expansion, the government should support the competitiveness and productivity of the companies, while in times of contraction, the economy should be supported with concrete measures in order to keep the jobs and the economic activity. This is what we are doing. Since the beginning of the crisis, the government has adopted 6 packages of anti-crisis measures with 11.3% of the GDP. These packages were directed and aimed at supporting the economy and the vulnerable economy categories and all stakeholders that were impacted by the COVID pandemics. The new credit line of 100 million euros is also going at the same direction. This is one of the main and more important measures that were announced and are now finally realized. By bringing new funds to the economy, we will stimulate the recovery. The economic indicators show that this recovery is quite evident, but will also support the banking sector. The Development Bank will allocate these funds using the commercial banks to the small enterprises with 250 employees and the middle capital companies with 250 to 3,000 employees. The funds will be offered to the companies with favorable terms. This means repayment deadline of 12 years with a grace period of 2 years, depending whether the loans will be used for investments or for increasing the needs for working capital. These interest rates are exceptionally low compared to our market conditions. Our commitment as a government is to continue the fiscal stimulus of the economy while it fully recovers. The previous credit lines from the European Investment Bank allocated through the Development Bank have presented excellent results. The 5 credit lines in the amount of 450 million euros extended by the European Investment Bank are fully used and were used to support 2,090 projects for companies in the area of manufacturing, services, construction, trade, hotels, restaurants, transport, health, and education. About 75% of the assets were used for investments, and more than 8,000 jobs were created. This is a period of 10 years of cooperation with the European Investment Bank. I expect that this new credit line will also provide good results. On one hand, we will support the corporate liquidity and the investments, while on the other, we will provide additional protection to the financial system. I wish the director of the Development Bank great success in the realization of the new credit line. Thank you for your attention. Now the minister will address again in Albanian.
Shkëlqësia juaj ambasador I Bashkimit Evropian, zoti David Gir, I nderuar drejtori I Bankës për Zhvillim, zoti Kire Naumov, të nderuar përfaqësues të mjedeve, të nderuar ju qytetarë. Sot kam një kënaqësi të jashtëzakonshme që jam pjesë e kësaj ngjarje me të vërtetë të rëndësishme dhe të veçantë për vendin tonë. Respektivisht sot nënshkruam një marrëveshje të jashtëzakonisht të rëndësishme me Bankën Evropiane për Investime, me të cilat sigurohen 100 milion euro mjete të pavarshme financiare për ndërmarrjet e vogla dhe të mesme në Maqedoninë e Veriut. Ose një përkraje jashtëzakonisht e rëndësishme për likuiditetin dhe financat e ndërmarrjeve në kohë të pandemisë COVID-19. Për ekonominë tonë këtë mjete nënkuptojnë vendet të reja të punës, investimet të reja dhe kështu edhe lëvizje të aktivitetit ekonomik në përshpejtim të rritjes ekonomike. Nënshkrimi I këtyre marrëveshje për qeverinë e Republikës së Maqedonisë së Veriut paraqet një argument për 2 partneritete shumë të rëndësishme. E para, me Bashkimin Evropian, I cili është partneri kryesor dhe përkrahasi në zhvillim, si në kohë të mira dhe ashtu në kohë të sfidave, siç është kjo e COVID-19. Mjetet për të cilat sot nënshkruam marrëveshje janë pjesë e përkrahjes financiare për Bashkimin që Bashkimi Evropian dhe Banka Europiane e Investimeve kanë alokuar për vendet e Ballkanit Perëndimor, si reagim ndaj pandemisë COVID-19. Do doja të shfrytëzoj këtë rast që të shpreh falënderim të madh për Bashkimin Evropian si dhe Bankën Evropiane për Investime. Dhe së dyti, ngjarja e sotme është në kontekstin e partneritetit qeveri dhe komuniteti biznesi. Siç e dimë, në kohë ekspansioni ekonomik, kemi rritje ekonomike. Në kohë të krizave dhe rënjeve ekonomike, ka nevojë për masa konkrete për të ndihmuar riaktivizimin e ekonomisë dhe rikthimin, ringjalljen dhe përshpejtimin ekonomik. Kjo sot që në shkruam është vazhdimësi e masave që deri më tani nga paraqitja e Covidit dhe vitin 2020 dhe vitin 2021, në të gjitha masat janë akorduar rreth 11.3% e bruto produktit vendor masa për stimulim të ekonomisë, gjithsesi stimuli fiskal, cila pavarësisht arrin 1 miliard e 200 milion euro. Kjo linjë e re kreditore e sotme për 100 milion euro, për të cilën unë shkrua dhe marrëveshje, paraqet një përkrahje të fuqishme për sektorin ekonomik të vendit, por gjithashtu edhe një lehtësim për sektorin bankar dhe stabilitetin e sektorit bankar. Banka Zhvillimore për Zhvillimin Maqedonisë së Veriut do të plasoj këto mjete kreditore nëpërmjet bankave afariste apo komerciale për shfrytëzuesit përfundimtar, gjithsesi ndërmarrjet e vogla dhe të mesme, me më pak se 250 të punësuar dhe ndërmarrjet me kapitalizim të mesëm me të punësuar për 250 deri 3000 punëtor. Gjithashtu, mjetet të cilat do të akordohen nëpërmjet kësaj kredi janë mjaft të favorshme. Do të jenë me një periudhë kredie për 12 vitesh dhe një grace periudhë për të filluar me pagesën e kësaj për 2 viteve. Angazhimi si qeveri është të vazhdojmë me stimulin fiskal të ekonomisë derisa të rrimë këmbët ekonomia dhe të krijojmë bazë për investime dhe për shpejtim të rritjes ekonomike. Në bashkëpunimin e deri-tashëm 10 vjeçarin e fundit nga Banka Evropiane për Investime janë plasuar nëpërmjet Bankës Zhvillimore 5 linja kreditore në vlerë të përgjithshme me 450 milion euro, me të cilat janë financuar mbi 2090 projekte dhe janë në shoqëritë tregtare të vendit në fushën e prodhimtarisë, shërbimeve, ndërtimit, tregtisë, hoteleve, restoraneve, transportit, shëndetësisë dhe arsimit. 75% e këtyre mjeteve janë realizuar për investime dhe janë hapur mbi 8.000 vende pune. Gjithashtu pres që nga kjo linje kreditore e sotme me kushte jashtëzakonisht të paforshme të përkrahojmë ekonominë e vendit dhe kështu të krijojmë vende të reja pune, investime të reja dhe përshpejtim të rritjes ekonomike. Uroj drejtorit të Bankës Zhvillimore punë të suksesshme në realizimin e kësaj linje të re kreditore të favorshme për ekonominë e vendit. Ju falenderoj.
Thank you, Minister. Distinguished, now we will hear the Vice President of the European Investment Bank, Mrs. Liliana Pavlova. You may take the floor.
Dear Minister Bashir, dear Ambassador Gear, dear Mr. Naumov, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, dear media representatives, it is great pleasure for me to meet you all today. Although I really regret that we cannot meet in person and I cannot join you in Skopje on this important occasion, but I really hope to be able to come soon and to visit you all soon and to further explore our great partnership. Today, we have signed the finance contract and the guarantee agreement for our new operation with the Development Bank of North Macedonia, as already Minister Beshimi mentioned, 100 million euro credit line in support of the economic recovery of the small and medium companies in the country. The Development Bank will work with the commercial banks, as already explained by the Minister, to swiftly deploy these funds to local businesses, which will benefit from the attractive terms of our financing. This operation will address both liquidity gaps for the short-term working capital needs, as well as long-term investments in North Macedonia's business on their path to economic recovery and growth. This operation is part of Team Europe initiative and also part of our EIB financial package in support for COVID-19 recovery of Western Balkans. We are proud to continue working alongside our long-standing partner, the Development Bank of North Macedonia, in supporting development and resilience of the private sector and of the banking industry in the country. Earlier this year, I had the pleasure of welcoming the Prime Minister Zaev and Minister Bashimi at the EIB headquarters here in Luxembourg. The President of the bank, Mr. Hoyer, and myself, we shared with the government and with the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance our priorities on how we want to support the economic recovery as well as the economic model of the regions becoming greener, becoming more inclusive and more sustainable. And I should say that we are really glad, and I'm personally really glad that together with the Prime Minister Zaev and Minister Bashimi, we share our European vision and commitment to really North Macedonia becoming economically strong. And of course, we would like to see Republic of North Macedonia benefiting as much as possible from the opportunities unlocked by the economic and the investment plan of the European Commission, for which, of course, we, the EIB, will play also a role in its implementation, in supporting North Macedonia and the region. As far as North Macedonia is concerned, I'm really very pleased to see and to share with you that I'm convinced that we have a very strong pipeline of green investments going forward. Like an example of the priority project of Corridor 8, the railway one, the new scheme supporting municipal water supply and wastewater infrastructure. And we as European Bank, as well as EU Climate Bank, we stand ready to support North Macedonia's ambitions to fulfill its renewable energy, energy efficiency, and innovation potential, along with all existing priorities in further development of transport infrastructure and other sectors of the economy. And finally, I want to really once again to use this opportunity of our virtual meeting today to reaffirm once again our full commitment and our full backing to North Macedonia and the region in achieving the goals and the reforms in line with EU policy. And I'm looking forward of seeing progress on the accession path of North Macedonia, continuing our close cooperation with the government, with the Development Bank of North Macedonia, with the European Commission and the delegation, and all our partners, financing partners in the region and in the country specifically, because we all want to make the present and the future project a real success in the benefit of all citizens of North Macedonia. Once again, thank you very much, and all the best and success with the implementation with this very important project. And I'm really looking forward to meeting you very soon in Skopje.
Thank you. Now we will continue further. Distinguished, we will now hear the Ambassador of the European Union to our country, Mr. David Gear. Please take the floor.
Dear Minister Bashimi, dear Vice President Pavlova of the European Investment Bank, dear Director of the Development Bank, Naumov, ladies and gentlemen, small and medium-sized enterprises are the backbone of every economy. They provide jobs, they generate added value, and they often lead the way with innovative solutions, especially when it comes to EU priorities such as the green and digital agenda. And that's why Team Europe, and when we say Team Europe, we mean the European Union, the European Union's member states, and related international financing institutions. That's why Team Europe has undertaken such efforts to support small and medium-sized enterprises in North Macedonia since the pandemic broke out. That was so that those SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, can continue to invest, hire and innovate. And so, with EU help, they can do their part in addressing the overall economic and social effects of the health crisis. And the government too stepped in, as the Minister Basimi has just said, and jointly with the European Union helped prevent, to a degree, loss of jobs and capital, and supported companies to ensure liquidity, pay the bills, and keep employees on the books. So what has the European Union done in terms of its financial support during the COVID-19 crisis and in order to help with recovery? First, the European Union provided the emergency support through the macro-financial assistance to a value of 160 million euros. Then, we followed up with 40 million euros through the EU for Resilience programme, implemented with the Development Bank and the Employment Agency, directly targeting small and medium-sized enterprises, startups, women entrepreneurs, and the young in order to put the economy on the road to growth. And the results have been really good. More than 2,500 Macedonian companies have received free of interest loans. Nearly half of them were for micro companies, sole traders and craftsmen. More than 2,100 persons who were risking unemployment have kept their jobs and professional activities during the COVID crisis. 624 companies have created 723 jobs, nearly 50% of which are occupied by women, and more than 50% have involved the recruitment of young people, that's people 29 or under. And some 1,200 new companies have been established. The challenge lying ahead of us is not just to recover from the crisis, it's also to adapt to new structural changes of how we do business from now on. And as the Vice President of the EIB has said, investments will be needed in green recovery, innovation, digitalization, and in adapting the economies to the new realities. For its part, the European Union will invest 20 million euros with its IPA 3 so that local industry can start to adapt in line with the green agenda and the principles of sustained development and circular economy. Now, the assistance of 100 million being provided by the European Investment Bank today is a significant opportunity for small and medium-sized enterprises to have further access to finance with low interest rates. That will help small and medium-sized enterprises accelerate growth in North Macedonia and will help their operations become more international and more innovative, more European. What we've learned in the past year or more is that we are all in this pandemic together. There are no borders. And we not only have to fight the pandemic itself together, we also have to address the economic consequences together. And I'm pleased to say that Team Europe will continue to stand by North Macedonia in combating COVID-19, ensuring growth, sustainability, and innovation. Thank you very much.
Благодарам, господин амбасадор. Продължаваме понатаму.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now we'll hear the Director of the Development Bank of North Macedonia, Mr. Kire Naumov. You may take the floor. Thank you. distinguished Vice President of the European Investment Bank, Mrs. Pavlova, distinguished Ambassador of the EU, Mr. Gir, distinguished Minister of Finance, Mr. Bassimi. The signing of this sixth finance agreement between the European Investment Bank and the Development Bank of North Macedonia has the greatest importance for the domestic companies that will be the final beneficiaries of these funds. 100 million euros for small and medium enterprises will be deployed through the commercial banks with exceptionally favorable interest rates. This is I'm quite glad to say that the collaboration between the European Investment Bank and the Development Bank is both strategic and successful. In the last 13 years, up until today, we have implemented five financing contracts, providing 550 million euros for the economic development in North Macedonia. With these funds, we have supported 2,090 projects of domestic small and medium enterprises, and we have created over 8,000 new jobs. From the previous 5 loans in total amount of 450 million euros, 182 million euros were disbursed to companies in the production sector, 127 million euros were disbursed to companies operating in trade sector, 40 million euros were provided to companies in transport sector, and the rest of the funds were provided to companies from other sectors such as services, hospitality, health, and education. During the pandemic, we have supported small and medium enterprises with 50.9 million euros from the fifth phase of the loan agreement between the European Investment Bank and the Development Bank, with interest rate for companies of up to 1.6%. The favorable interest rates were introduced and supported by the government's decision on subsidizing the interest cost. In the period ahead, I would like to say that we withdrew the individual tranche of 25.6 million euros. In the period ahead of us, focused on economic recovery and faster economic growth, it is essential to utilize the company's potential for growth, development, and adaptation. In order to do so, strong partnership is needed between companies and financial institutions. As a development bank, we will continue to closely follow and monitor the needs of the private sector, and we will strive to provide portfolio of products and services that would increase the utilization of the company's full potential. In this manner, through these 100 million euros, we expect to provide support for more than 300 projects of small and medium enterprises. In the following weeks, we expect introductions of the agreement with the commercial banks that will be able to offer these funds to the domestic small and medium enterprises. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Director. Now we will continue ahead with today's event. We'll hear the journalists should they have any questions. Cito Television. To the Director Kira Naumov, several questions remain. What is the interest rates that will be paid by the companies? These are intended for small and medium enterprises, but the Minister of Finance said that these can be used by the companies with 250 employees and 250 to 3,000 employees. This is not small and medium enterprises, these are large enterprises. And which companies from which sector will have priority, and what is the minimum and maximum amount that can be provided to them? Thank you for the questions. I will try to answer all of them. First of all, as we did so far, the last 50.9 million euros, the government has already made a decision to subsidize the investment rate, and these 50 million euros will be disbursed through the commercial banks with interest rates of up to 1.6%. The commercial banks will provide these funds with 1.2% interest rate. Yes, these are intended for small and medium enterprises according to the definition of small and medium enterprises. You will remind me if I'm not answering something. The maximum amount for the loans for working capital or investments will be up to 3 million euros and repayment deadline of 12 years with a grace period of 2 years. For a working capital or liquidity, the maximum amount of the loan will be 666,000 euros with a grace period of 6 months. There is no limitation to the industries or the sectors, except for several industries which have been classified by the European Investment Bank as yellow zones. For example, the construction companies cannot use loans from this credit line of the European Investment Bank. Does this answer your questions? You want to say that first we'll have 50 million euros and afterwards we will have additional 50 million euros? No, let me clarify this. 100 million euros are at disposal from the European Investment Bank. What was a decision so far and can continue after the 50 million euros are paid. For the first 50 million euros, the government has adopted a decision to subsidize these, and they will be dispersed with an interest rate of 1.6. After withdrawing this 50 million euros and the agreement between the Ministry of Finance and the government, it is possible for the rest of the money, the additional 50 million euros, to also be subsidized. In the few 2 to 3 weeks, I hope to sign the agreements with the commercial banks and for the companies to start sending the projects to us and to have the money paid to them. Compared to last year, in July, August, and September, we received tranches of 50.9 million euros and we paid these funds until the end of the year. Until the signing of this agreement, which was a bit late because it was supposed to be signed it was supposed to be voted in the assembly. The law on guarantees should have been voted, and thanks to the members of the parliament who voted in favor of this law, unofficially, from the banks and from the clients, we know that there is a great interest for these assets. But we'll see what will happen further. Thank you. We'll continue with Tilma Television. Good afternoon. I have a question to the Minister of Finance, Besimi, not on this topic. And one for the topic, what is the interest rate of this credit line from the investment bank? Not the one subsidized by us, but what is the interest rate for the credit line? And something about the eco tax. What happens with the amendments? What happens with the laws, with the decreasing of the value-added tax? Are these ready? Do you expect that from July both things will be valid, especially that we have 10 days till July? My second question is, why you did not consult the chambers before, because there are many reactions from them, but you will meet them this week. Will the government withdraw from the law on eco tax, or it should be implemented from 1st of July? Thank you. When it comes to the interest rate of the credit line this credit line for the small and medium enterprises, this will be favorable interest rate. As the director has explained, there is a decision of the government for subsidizing 50 million euros. This means that for the small and medium enterprises, the interest rates for this credit line will be 1.6%. When it comes to the other questions, not on the topic, I will repeat what was said here last week, but also was explained more precisely by the Prime Minister regarding these measures. These are two measures that are to be reviewed tomorrow in the government session. It was already announced regarding the value-added tax on the households for electricity, decreasing from 18 to 5% for 1 year. The next year will be 10% and it will return to 18%. This is all in order to help the transition of the liberalization of the electricity market for the households and to adjust it to the market conditions. There will be less income to the budget of the Republic of North Macedonia, and the following measures are adjusted with the proposed rebalance of the budget. At that moment, we were making more precise analysis, but I have already answered this question. We are making analysis involving all institutions. When it comes to the eco tax, this refers to another law that is under the competitiveness of the law of the Ministry of Environment. When it comes to this tax, this means increasing the amount that is already provided by the law, all in order to support the projects that will support our environment projects involving energy efficiency, renewable energy sources. This is an agenda that is for our, but also for the better life of the future generations. This is part of the government's agenda, and it is in accordance with the Paris Declaration, with the European Union, the European Commission, and all our priorities, but most of all for the quality of life of our citizens in the years to come. Let me just remind you that this year there was something proposed in the regulation for the excises. There are two bases for this. The one is subject to change, and the price should be adjusted to the prices on the world market. If the world market are below a certain level, this is for the oil derivatives. If there's under certain level of the market prices, then the variable amount is for no lead gas. If it is below $319, then we are not going to pay the excise. The variable part will not be paid, whereas while the price on the world markets is between $350 and $550 per ton, if it is lower, the difference in the price is between 390 and 590, then the variable part will not be 3 Macedonian dinars, but the total excise will be 22 Macedonian dinars. And if the price is over $590 per ton on the world markets in the last 2 weeks, then the excise will be lower, and only the fixed part will be paid. So this means that the shock from the world markets is being adjusted. These numbers can be found in the law, and if I have made certain errors in the numbers, I would like you to show some understanding. You can see the numbers in the law, however, the concept is as I tried to explain. Now we're not speaking of the excise, now we're speaking of the eco tax that is regulated with the law on environment. These funds will be used for projects for energy efficiency, and in the green agenda there are various programs. There is a special fund, there is a special sub-program that was opened now with the rebalance of the budget. However, there are many programs for projects for better environment regarding the energy efficiency, renewable energy sources, and other projects that are of importance for the environment and all aspects that are included in the strategy for support and safekeeping of the environment. Thank you. I have an additional question. Minister, you did not respond. Will this law be valid from July or from September? The minus and the plus are included in the budget. Is it possible to vote these legal amendments? Will they be voted in the assembly? Maybe there will be amendments. How do you plan for these to start being valid from July? You did not respond me. Why you did not consult the business community that is quite loud now that this is an additional cost for them and will decrease the purchasing power of the citizens? Why did you not consult them? Is there a possible solution for this week's meeting? Will you withdraw from the eco tax? When it comes to the communication of the business community, the government continuously keeps in touch with the business community and the various stakeholders and institutions within the government, depending on their competitiveness. And we have communication using various channels. When it comes to the assembly, I will tell you that the government will give the proposal for these to be valid from 1st of July, and we hope that this will be voted in the assembly until 1st of July. When it comes to the question that is the government withdrawing from this, tomorrow we will adopt that decision. When it comes to the citizens, the households will have certain alleviation in the price of the electricity. Part of the value-added tax will be decreased, and this is a concrete measure that will directly impact the budget of the households. Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra. Canal Pit Television. I also have a question for the minister. You said that tomorrow decision will be adopted. Is there a possibility for the government to withdraw, especially since the business community says that this is not the moment for something of this kind? There are many European examples for the eco tax, and that this is not the time because we are facing pandemics, the low state aid, and that all citizens will face consequences of increased prices. There will be inflation. Will the government withdraw? Will you reconsider? Is there a possibility for a new form to realize this? Let me be precise. Not in a single moment I said that the government will reconsider and will withdraw. I told you that the government will adopt a decision tomorrow. I cannot speak for the whole government when the decisions are made in the government session. Only the law on value-added tax is under our competition, under our jurisdiction. And from that aspect, I told you that tomorrow the government will make a decision. We have a proposal for decreasing the VAT for the households. I explained this. This is the transition period to help the households in a period when transition is made towards liberalization of the electricity market, including the households. When it comes to calculations for inflation, we remain on the projections that were provided with the balance, with the rebalance of the budget, and the growth that is expected for the inflation. It is also foreseen to decrease. We will have an inflation, but this will decrease in the period to come. This is all related to the world markets. This is within the projections, and we have already stated this. We have shown this through our projections, and these are placed in the proposed rebalance of the budget. Thank you. TV 21. Good afternoon. Can I ask the EUR ambassador a question? Yes. I will not ask about the expectations of the Council of the European Union, and because the expectations and the optimism are quite low. My question is, what will be the fate with the Portuguese proposal? Is this proposal still in force, or are we going to have a new proposal from Slovenia? How does the Ambassador Geer see the rhetorics of Bulgaria as a member state and certain politicians in that country, and especially from a member of the European Parliament, that North Macedonia is a Bulgarian country? Ambassador?
Well, thank you very much for the question. First of all, can I say that we, of course, welcome the efforts to resolve outstanding issues between North Macedonia and Bulgaria. This is important. It's something we've always called for. As regards the opening of negotiations themselves, I can only echo the leadership of the European Union that we very much hope to see the opening of negotiations as soon as possible. Regarding remarks made by politicians of other countries, some politicians in a European Union member state, I'm not going to comment on that. It's our practice not to comment on those, but I would just say that it's important to exercise restraint whenever, as regards good neighbourly relations. Good neighbourly relations are very important, and so politicians need to obviously exercise restraint in that regard. As regards the rest, these are issues for the Portuguese presidency and for the Slovenian presidency. I think everyone is very committed to continuing to work towards a solution which would then lead to the opening of negotiations with North Macedonia as soon as possible. Thank you.
Благодарам, амбасадоре. Дополнително? Не.
Thank you, Ambassador. Other questions? No? This will be the end of today's press conference. Thank you for your attention and have a good day.